What's up, viewers, subscribers, and agents alike? It's your boy, Light Luciferian Prince, coming at you once again in regards to this, further into these procedures. And I wanted to touch bases with a lot of people because I know that a lot of people I've been talking to lately have been asking me about videos that I posted online, like probably about close to about 4 years ago. And the videos that I posted online close to 4 years ago were documented and straight to the point. And I removed those videos for good reason, because for three reasons mainly. Number one, it was because people were actually using my content, putting it on another channel. And two, people are also profiting personally off of the absence of mine in regards to my personal life, and actually formulating the information and then pre-packaging it and selling it to you. If you probably noticed, these people aren't around anymore, and I'm back, and they're probably still watching my channel, probably waiting to get more information. But the way that I disseminate my information now today is not going to be the same as I did yesterday. So people need to understand the concept behind the deception. And lastly, the reason is because the format in regards to a lot that has happened yesteryear, a lot of laws have changed, and a lot of processes have changed also. So keeping with the currentness of, the documentation, I don't want anyone to go off the information of yesteryear when laws change in regards to acceptance of presentments every day. So I took down the videos for those particular reasons. Now, that's not the subject matter of this video today. The subject matter of this video today is to further historically explore the unequivocal stance of the economic circumstances of today. And I don't need to put in a disclaimer in this video, because particularly it's just an analysis. And analysis is just basically going over history, going over the more hidden drive that's behind the motive of what we're dealing with today. A lot of people really don't pay attention to history, and I emphasize on history a lot in my videos, because in order for people to understand what's going on now, they have to understand that this instance is actually an instance that was planned. It's methodical. It's something that's basic to those who have done their due diligence to do research, but those people who come into this concept must grasp the entire concept behind what's really going on. What's going on now behind the scenes is a historical planning. It's historical. So let's dig into it. Now, but what's going on with this whole COVID-19 idea? And don't get me wrong, yes, there may be people passing away from this. I'm not insensitive about it. But I know that the longer lasting effects to this is that there are economic disparities that are going to be the long-term effects. And what they're doing is transferring property, slowly but surely, of the American people over to the hands of a few people. This is something this is factual. Now, whether people are acknowledging that, that's on them. I don't have time for, the arguments or the indifference in regards to that subject. But the truth is that most people are unawares of the previous economic disparities in regards to the 1900s and 1928, but the establishment of the Federal Reserve Act and the centralization of wealth has been established then. So the Depression came in 1928, the beginning of the Wall Street crash, I should say, for those who historically want to be accurate, and the Great Depression in 29 and into the socialistic programs of the 30s. And that carries on into today. But people have been very negligent to focus on that concept. They have been very negligent and very absent-minded in regards to it because it's too much of a task for them. Today, too many people are looking for a solution instantaneously. And the reality is that they've been, induced into a social slumber and social paralysis as well, because they fail to adhere to the historical precedences of yesterday. So, I'm going to shed light on something, and I want people to basically, stick with me on this. And, let's get out of the conspiracy theory and let's be realists. There is no theory. If you can base your assertions upon something that's a historical finding, and you can see something for yourself, evidentiarily, there's no conspiracy. What you're left with is the actual factual basis. Now, this comes from, it's an excerpt, so to speak, from Silent Weapons from Quiet Wars. I did a video on this, I believe, I spoke on this in a video before in regards to Silent Weapons from Quiet Wars. And that's what's going on. The economic warfare, the silent war, so to speak, or World War III, is basically what's occurring now. I think that most people have gotten caught up in the Hollywood plots that World War III would come with nukes and so forth and so on, but no, you're headed to a stage of World War IV because World War III has already taken place. With the declaration of the Emergency Act of March 9th, 1933, and the declaration of war over the economics and labor of the American people, you have to take it into extreme consideration. The war has already been here. We were actually, the generation after the baby boomers generation has endured those effects, which has been deemed quite successful. But to further shed light on the subject, let's further go into this. It says, in order to maintain our position, it is necessary that we have absolute first knowledge of the science of control over all economic factors, and experience first at engineering the world economy. In order to achieve such sovereignty, we must achieve this one end, that the public will not make either the logical or mathematical connection between economics and the other energy sciences, or learn to apply such knowledge. Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. This is an excerpt that I chose to pinpoint that because whether people realize it or not, the truth behind the matter is this. It's war. War is not waged with guns and bullets necessarily. If you control the language, if you control the knowledge, if you control the dissemination of information, if you control how people perceive all of the listed above, then you are waging war because you can manipulate the capabilities to achieve your agenda. Warfare yesteryear was, displays, deaths, numerous tolls, treaties, armistice, peace, yada, yada, yada. But it was all working toward the end. But today, the end is financial because it's covert, it's hidden. And people are never determined to do their own due diligence in regards to their personal life. What they want, again, is someone to take care of them from the cradle to the grave. That's a sad fact of reality because people have lost the accountability factor for them to basically move forward in their own respective sphere, in their own personal resolve, and to be the individual that they were born to be. But they were hijacked along the way. And now, this is the reason why I explained in my previous video. It takes time. It takes time, yes. It takes time for you to come to the realization of what's going on. Some people don't want that. So if you don't want to take the time that I myself took years ago to realize what's going on now, then I come from a standpoint of knowledge, not arrogance, not self-conceit, not for celebrity, but for realistic premise. And the people who have a leaning towards who they call the enlightened ones, I'm going to give you a simplistic definition on regards to what that really is. The enlightened ones, they whom are illuminated, which only means informed, into knowledge, that is denied the rest of the population unless they make a commitment to find it for themselves. So in order for you to endure these processes in the near future, you have to be committed. So many people are hindered because their situations don't allow them to have the capability and to have the mobility to dedicate themselves to their own solution. That indeed is a personal situation. That indeed is a situation that a person has to basically endure on their own, but that's a commitment. It's personal. So when people come on these channels and they have their disposition about whether or not, the presentation is right, the culture, the political, the socio-economic, what else? The civic side, the legal side. These are all intermingling concepts. It's not a one-way path, but there's a one-way path to a common problem, which I emphasize on, and I've been emphasizing on for years. The redemptive ideology. People have become fatigued. They have become, apprehensive in regards to their own personal redemption. So some of these people on these channels, they want you to pay them to help you solve your problem. That's illogical. You have to be the problem solver yourself. You have to, and you better be. Then you have people who have this half-hearted, altruistic idea, but they're really very, I'm just going to use the word for simple terms, evil intended people. They really are. Now, what do? You have to use the spirit of discernment for yourself. Because if you're not educated, then you're not properly informed. If you're not properly informed, you're going to act upon the capacity of not being properly motivated to do what you need to do. And that's the biggest concept that people have failed to adhere to in regards to these channels. Now, I'm going to read a quote that I love. And, I realize that it's the most significant truth to it, because so many variances in regards to these channels and whatever the case or mediums may be in society has never led to a common solution. I'm going to read this. I want you to contemplate on this in your own personal time. But it says, they dispute not in order to find or even seek truth, but for victory, and to appear more learned and strenuous upholders of a contrary opinion. Such persons should be avoided by all who have not a good breastplate of patience. That's why I get to the point in my videos. I've been doing it for years. Every other individual I may speak to, they say these people, they drag it out. It's just to keep you mystified. You don't know these people. They go on YouTube. They might go in the basement and smoke some crack. The truth is, that's why I've been presenting facts for a very long time. The facts. You dispute the fact, that's on you. If you dispute the fact, it's not to be disputed. And if you don't appreciate that fact, then you're a lost individual. I won't say soul, because souls have property for the Creator's redemption. But I also will quote something else to further support my disposition in regards to this. And the previous quote was from Giordano Bruno. This quote right here is from Leonardo da Vinci, and it says, "If you find from your own experience that something is a fact, and it contradicts what some authority has written down, then you must abandon the authority and base your reasoning upon your own findings." So, What am I saying? Everything that's presented to people factually must be tested by their own experience. Me, myself, I'm currently using the redemption process in regards to my own personal life. I have undeniable, unrefuted proof that this is the truth. And when people have this, this leaning or this ill intent, and I know that putting the positive energy out there in the world with these videos to doing a service of the few who deserve it, in the creator's eyes, then there's negativity. There's attacks, there's slander. I know people who sit back and wait for an opportunity to try to find something. And the thing about me is that I give people simply what they ask for in regards to what I provide. There's no variance. And then people, I realize, aren't who they appear to be. So I had to use my spirit of discernment to also be aware, and go by the creator-driven energy to avoid them. So, this all goes into the concept of what this is, because this will be attacked heavily. It will be attacked because it's insight. It's insight into something that should have never have had been discussed in the first place. Go back to my previous video where it says American people wake up. It says we have in our arsenal plausible deniability. And if one or two men should find it out, meaning that it was never supposed to be discovered anyway. That's the reality to it. So once you have the knowledge that was discovered, you better believe that a small percentage, that microorganismic percentage that was discovered has been distorted. So what am I saying? This is something that is indeed truthful. I use it in my own personal life. Personal. And most people come on these channels with premises, but they never get to the point. That's why I get to the point. I keep it simple because truth is simple. Truth is evident. What's evident is truth. And it doesn't have anything to do with how I feel or what my cultural beliefs or what my opinions are. No, it's evidence. That's all it could ever be. So in regards to discovering that, this is what I place out to you. So my next video will be further addressing the process of redemption. The process, not my conjecture, the process. And it will also further enable people who watch these videos to, basically gird up your loins and figure out if this path is really for you. The messianic figure said that no man, build a tower, but at the same token, doesn't ever sit down and really write down whether or not they have the actual skills and abilities to complete the project. And most people overlook that because the truth is I've been doing this for years. And I believe in the concept of the dissemination of information and the meeting of minds with people who have similar like ideas. But I also know that the meeting of the minds with those who have similar like ideas are not people who have the intention I have. So they're what I call the modern day Pharisees and Sadducees. They go around posing and posturing, but they don't have the real spiritual mechanism of humility. They don't. So these are the grand deceivers of society. And in regards to that, people have to be aware. And this is the reason why I do what I do. And this is the reason why I know I face personal attacks in my personal life, which I can endure because everything happens with the will of the Creator's hand, not mine. So I'm just glad to be used as a vessel. Simple. Okay? Stay tuned for the next video. And agents, peace. Lay y'all.